There we go. So we are now recording. And I will also enable auto transcription. You can also turn that off on your end as well if that's distracting to you at all. So to get us started, I'll introduce Dr. Jennifer Jacobs. She's an associate professor of sport and exercise psychology in the Kinesiology and Physical Education department in the College of Ed. I'll introduce Jen, and then she can introduce her graduate students who are really going to run the show here today a little bit. So Dr. Jacobs.
Thank you so much, Alicia. Thank you for inviting us and giving us this chance to talk about our program that we're really, really proud of. I hope to do as little talking as possible because my graduate students are cooler than me, more knowledgeable than me, and really the people on the ground doing the amazing work with Project Flex. So we're really excited to have two of our graduate students with us today. We have a full team of about 8 people, but these are the two lucky individuals. So I'll first introduce Timothy Mahoney, who is in his first year of his graduate program in sport and exercise psychology, and Javon Davis, who is in his second year and on to a PhD in organizational and industrial psychology as well. Hopefully I didn't take too much of your content, guys, but I'll throw it to you all to introduce yourself. Tim, go ahead first if you'd like.
I'm actually going to throw it over to Javon because he had some pretty great news this morning. So I'll let him start off with that.
Yeah, hey guys, I'm Javon Davis. So like Dr. J said, Dr. Jenn Jacobs, I'm with Project Flex. I am a second year sports psychology master's student. I'm going to get my doctorate in industrial organizational psychology. This morning, I actually did just sign the contract with Old Dominion University. So I will be continuing my schooling over in Norfolk, Virginia. So very excited about that. And I'm excited to inform you guys about what we do here at Flex.
And then my name's Tim Mahoney. I'm a first year grad student, just like Dr. J said, and I'm involved with crew, and we'll get into more of that a little bit later. And I'm also in charge of the basketball program that we started recently. And outside of that, I am an intern for a mental performance consultancy, and I'm big into mental performance and, trying to help out athletes and work some of that into the work that we do with the youth through the positive youth development. So excited to get this started off.
All right, so we're first going to start off with talking a bit about how Project Flex got started. So Project Flex is a sport-based youth development program that is run currently in 2 juvenile detention centers. So within 2 youth prisons, sort of in the Chicagoland area. And the program has dual aims. The first aim is to allow youth to engage in physical activity. So that looks like kind of an after-school sports club where they're playing a variety of different activities, which we'll talk a bit about later. But so aim 1 is really just to give them a space to be able to be physically active, because that's a huge barrier in the prison setting. And then the second aim is to infuse important life skills into that sport and physical activity setting. So where we're teaching and incorporating leadership, responsibility, self-control, other life skills that anybody can benefit from, but definitely youth who come from marginalized backgrounds or underserved communities who may have sort of some challenges with their psycho and social development. So those are sort of the 2 aims of the program initially. And then our ultimate goal, sort of our vision, is to find a way to help the youth sort of reestablish themselves after they leave the prison setting. And so that they're still keeping up with healthy fitness behaviors. We know that to be really important for lifelong benefits, to be physically active, but then also be able to use some of those personal and social life skills that we're teaching with life outside of prison. So helping them acquire a job, career, further education, etc. So sort of transitioning into what it's like to work in a prison, we wanted to spend a bit of time talking about that because it would be our guess that many people don't have a lot of experience in the setting and understanding what it's like. So as best as we can, we want to try to paint the picture of this. And so I will send it to our graduate students first, who spend a lot of time in there. And I'd ask them to just talk about what do they observe sort of entering into this setting. What was it like for them the first time? And then possibly tell a story or something to help illustrate that.
I'll go first. So basically for me, going into Flex the first time or just at the beginning, I was a little nervous. I wasn't sure. Like, I remember the first thing I asked was like, what clothes should I be able to wear? Just because I didn't want to offend anybody with, gangs or anything going on. So that being said, it was just kind of hard at first for me to kind of break those preconceived biases that I had of juvenile prisons or just prisons in general. But being able to go in the facility, I will say it was nothing like what I thought it would be. I guess I was thinking it'd be like really chaotic, like what you see in the movies when there's sirens going off and guards running to go help somebody that's, any trouble that's been going on in the facility. And it's never really been that way. So, but actually going in there, it is, the environment does kind of look the same as what you would think it would look like inside. But once you kind of get your footing and figure out your place and what your role is going to be within the facility and within these programs, you can take off running. So I would say for me, I'm a person that I like to observe everything first. I may come in a little bit quiet, but it's not because I'm nervous or that I don't know what's going on. I just kind of want to feel out the individual personalities and kind of see where I fit in. So through Flex, it's been kind of helpful for me to even see who I am in the real world as well, because I didn't even realize really how I was coming off to people until I got into the facility and talked to people myself. So that's kind of what it's like, but it's something that you kind of just got to see it, kind of see it to be in there and understand.
Yeah, special shout out to Tim Mack, who's in on this call. He and Javon and the rest of everyone in our cohort did a great job of, trying to prepare us, me especially, for what to expect. I'm a white male from the suburbs, and, I don't have that much in common with a lot of the youth besides basketball and besides, sports. So going inside, you're looking at this huge building right here. This is actually the gym. So it's the visitor center, and that's where we practice basketball. And so, we have to go in on the other side, and it's about a 10-minute walk. And, if you can imagine doors clanging and, barbed wire that looks just like this all around the facility, it's intimidating. And I think that anyone who says that they wouldn't be nervous to enter a facility like this is probably not being completely truthful. But, it's something that has been a great experience so far, getting to interact with the kids. I coached lacrosse before this, and you see a lot of different personalities, and coaching basketball with the youth that are in this facility, you start to realize, I've seen this kid before. He just wasn't incarcerated. So I think that once you start to get that understanding that they are, at the end of the day, just kids still, I think that puts you at ease a little bit. Obviously, you have to be aware of what's going on and things like that, but I think that for me, the biggest thing was kind of just taking each day as it comes, sort of thing. Riding those highs and lows, right? We're not going to have every day that's going to be perfect. So just kind of understanding that, but learning how to work with them, as opposed to, kind of going in with the mindset of, I know everything and I'm going to teach you things, as opposed to, we're going to learn together, because quite frankly, that's what happens. So just that, and trying to be consistent. I think that, those things really helped me adjust early on.
So like,
Yeah.
go ahead. Oh, real quickly, I would say what I love also about kind of just having me and Tim here to speak. You kind of get to see, even with the way we just both answered the question, it was both coming from different perspectives. The first thing Tim said was, him being a white male and going in the facility, it kind of gives you a different perspective as to what's going on in the juvenile detention center. I would say for me, I grew up with a lot of kids that ended up getting incarcerated, that are incarcerated. So kind of going into the setting, it kind of gave me, it's kind of like I almost expect to see the same kid twice, to see the kid that I saw on the outside, inside, not literally, but kind of figuratively in that aspect. But also just by our different demographics, there's different expectations of how we're both going to act given the way we look, the way we dress, the way we talk, and everything like that. So that's I think that's just pretty cool about how that goes down.
I think something Javon and Tim do a really good job of sort of helping capture is how the environment is very separate from the people there. So the environment is very restrictive. If you think about any sort of positive extracurricular activities you had growing up, whether it was sports or after school clubs or whatever you can think of, you're probably thinking about how it was a welcoming environment. It was positive people, positive adults, like even just bright and things are on the walls. That is not the case here. Prison has a smell. It has a coldness to it, and actually sometimes way too hotness to it. It has sounds of doors slamming shut and keys jangling, and it's a very restrictive, unwelcoming environment. But when you can sort of prime your mind to separate the environment from the people that are unfortunately living in it, it helps you recognize that these are kids who are on a path to try to better themselves. And it makes me think of the very first time I went there. It was very overwhelming to sort of take in all of the different senses of how frankly kind of scary it was. But the very first image of the youth that I saw, I will never forget. One of the security guards had his 100 keys and was sorting through to unlock the door to one of their cottages, which is where they live, their sort of housing quarters. It sort of looks a bit like this. This is at a different facility that we'll be at in the future. And the guard opened the door, and there are 4 kids seated around a table and have cards in their hands. And I hear one of them yell, "Go fish." And I'm like, yep, these are kids. So that kind of helps you understand, these are people inside an environment that is not very friendly. So we'll move in a little bit to what this program looks like, who's involved, painting a picture of these people. So first I will send it to Tim to talk about our team of graduate students and their backgrounds, because I think that's a really unique aspect of our program as having such a superstar team of people who are willing to go into a restrictive environment and take on a project like this.
Thanks, Dr. J. So if you think about a team, we kind of have a captain, and that is Gabby Bennett, and she is a doctoral student in the kinesiology department. And so she got her bachelor's degree from UMass Amherst. She was a Division I runner there, and she also went to Cal State Fullerton, and she earned her master's in higher education administration. So having somebody with that kind of background that was involved with high level competition, knows how to lead, that's crucial, I think, in having on any kind of team. And because of all the teams she's been able to be on, she knows how to work really well with different personalities, and I think that's definitely translated into some of the relationships that she has with the youth as well. And then next we have Isaiah Webb. He is a second-year graduate student in the sports psych program, so he's about to graduate in May. He is going to be attending NIU's clinical counseling program in the fall, and he's also another former student athlete. He was a pole vaulter at North Central College, and is also a CMPC candidate for his certified mental performance consultancy. And then we have Huntley, and she is a first-year graduate student in the sports psych program, also just like me. And she is in charge of the boxing program that we have with the girls sometimes at one of the other facilities. Huntley is on the far left in the vest and the white top. And she also was a former student athlete at NIU. She was on the club volleyball team. And then we have Marquise on the bottom left there. Look at that jean jacket. He's killing it. So he is the newest member of our team. He is going to be involved with basketball and the music program that we're going to be having to continue. And he was also actually one of the staff members at one of the facilities that we're at. So we're really excited to kind of get that different, input, because he's the floor for him, so to speak, is already so much higher than it is for all of us, right? Because his level of understanding is already so much higher. And that's it for right now. I mentioned Tim Mack earlier. He just got done earlier in the winter, and he's on the top right, or in the red top, and he's one of the originals, one of the OGs, so to speak.
And Tim, you may not have noticed, but Mr. St. Anthony Lloyd is on this call right now as well. And St. Anthony Lloyd is in the picture. He's wearing the Project Flex shirt, and he is our partner extraordinaire. He is the Leisure Time Activities Director at the Illinois Youth Center. So he works in the prison full time, and is just probably one of the most phenomenal people you could ever meet, and a huge part of the success in our program. So that makes up the team setting there. I'm going to talk a little bit about the youth who are incarcerated, just to give you a bit of a picture of what incarceration rates look like in these facilities. So similar to the greater United States rates of incarceration, youth of color are incarcerated at about 5 times the rate of their white peers. So within the St. Charles facility that we are in, it is primarily youth of color. Probably the numbers fluctuate, but probably around 75% of the youth identify as Black, probably around maybe 20% Latinx, and the remaining would be Caucasian or biracial youth. They are all males between the ages of 14 and 20. They typically don't incarcerate very young youth. We haven't seen many 14, 15-year-olds in our program, primarily around 17 to 20-year-olds. And once you turn 21, you can no longer be incarcerated in a youth center in the state of Illinois. So youth will either be released on their 21st birthday or go on to serve the remaining of their sentences in adult facilities. There are 5 youth facilities in the state of Illinois. Project Flex is currently in 2 of them, and plans to expand to a 3rd one this fall. And the St. Charles facility that Tim and Javon are at represents a facility that's one of the more higher security facilities. So it includes youth who have a bit more severe crimes. About 50% of the youth at the facility have committed crimes that are categorized as Title X crimes. So typically involving some sort of gun violence. Many youth, in fact, probably most youth, belong to gangs. And so oftentimes they are housed based on that gang involvement for their safety. So when they go through the intake process to enter the facility, they sort of disclose that and are housed in their cottages with youth from their same backgrounds in order to decrease the physical altercations that might occur. Typically, because the youth are high school age, they're if they haven't earned their high school degree yet, they are in school during the day. There's sort of a school setting on site to where they're working through their GED or high school classes, typically online. And then there are some opportunities for taking college classes as well, but those are sort of still emerging and are pretty limited at this time. So that is a bit of the background about the youth. I think now we're going to dive into more of what does Project Flex look like? What is a typical day in the life of a Project Flex session? And I'm going to send that to Javon, who's going to talk to us about some of the different programs that we've got, starting with Project Flex, so our typical Flex sessions, and then Swole Patrol, which is a program as cool as the name sounds. So take it over, Javon.
Yeah, so I'll start off quickly with how Flex sessions are normally ran. So usually I do run a typical Flex session. So usually this will start off by us gathering the kids in a center in a circle. Like, let's say we're on the basketball court, just for imagination purposes, we'll all meet in the center of the basketball court, kind of chop it up with a little bit of conversation. But then we'll quickly tie it into, let's say, for example, the life skill for the week was loyalty or something. We could, I would prompt the kids to talk about what loyalty means to them, why they believe that, why they believe the statements that they did just make off of that life skill. And then I would give my own feedback as to what I believe loyalty is and where I come from. The purpose of all of this is just really to kind of is really kind of to humanize us in a way, I would say, because us coming in from graduate school, going into these facilities, you know, I do understand that they may see us as different people, that we all took different paths to get there that maybe they feel they can never get towards. So we do try to humanize ourselves a little bit with some of the topics that we have, but then we jump right into a game. Like, let's say we're playing dodgeball or something. Loyalty could be, you know, taking a ball for, you know, for a teammate. Instead of letting them get hit, you jump in front of the ball and make sure that, you know, they're able to still continue playing. Just keep that going on. But I'll, you know, moving forward, I will say, transitioning to other parts of programs that Flex offers is Swole Patrol, which is one of my favorites, just because I've been wanting to lose weight, and I have been losing weight for quite some time now since working out with the kids at Flex. We do a lot of ab workouts, chest workouts, nutrition talks. We obviously can't see what they're eating, but we do try to let them know what we do on a day-to-day basis. I know Tim here likes to get up at 6 o'clock early in the morning to get a workout in, and he does come. He may come back to the facility a little bit sore, but he still gets out there and he gets after it with these kids. So that's like just a little bit of what Swole Patrol looks like. And then we may transition into other sports like basketball. I'll let Tim get more into that since it's more of a specialty for him. But also another program that we have is we have a music program. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to get too into it a little bit this semester, just a little bit of setbacks with trying to incorporate basketball and other stuff that we're doing. But I will say I've been helping the kids with writing lyrics, recording their voices, making sure everything sounds like everything, and just make sure that they're the biggest thing that I love about music is vulnerability. I love people being able to express themselves, but not in a cliche term. I like asking kids why they feel like they wrote the lyrics that they wrote, to dig a little bit deeper, because you know, I don't want to drop a quote, but one of my favorite quotes from some hip hop artists that I listen to is it says, once you speak from your heart, it sounds like you're singing. So what I get from it is, when you're saying something that really is passionate about, something that's passionate to you, no matter what it is, you're going to feel those lyrics. You may not live the same lifestyle that I lived or that the artist lived, but if you're passionate enough about it, you know, I might drop a tear for you when you were upset and writing these lyrics themselves. So that's just a little bit about what we do in Flex and some of the nice programs that we offer.
And now I will send it over to Tim to talk about his basketball program that he just launched this semester, and then as well as talking about Crew, which is one of our offshoot programs where we get to bring youth from the facility to NIU for a day to experience a day in the life of college. Take it over, Tim.
Thanks, Dr. J. So I'm going to talk about Crew first. So Crew is college readiness exposure. What does the W stand for? I don't know if we ever talked about that.
Great question, Tim. It's actually for week, but it's much longer than a week, but we couldn't think of another, or I couldn't think of another W word. Okay. So yeah, that's what we're going with for now.
So everything is an acronym. All the best ideas come from acronyms. That's what Dr. J has ingrained in us. But so Crew is essentially a day where we take youth from either, you know, the first facility that we mentioned or the second facility, and we give them a tour on campus, and we give them the chance to experience a day in the life of a college student. So they get here in the morning, and, you know, we'll go over, you know, a little bit of expectations, maybe what to expect and what to think about throughout the day a little bit, to prompt them for questions later. And then we'll go around campus, and, you know, we'll do things like go tour a dining hall and, you know, let them eat for, you know, however much time we have, because that's always, you know, one of the favorite things to do when we're there. You know, tour athletics, you know, student rec center, whatever it may be. And then we always make sure that we attend a class, usually taught by Dr. Jacobs. So, you know, that's something that we're looking forward to coming up. And thankfully we were able to fit in one of the facilities earlier in the year, first semester. So we're looking forward for the second facility to get their turn to come in. Is there anything that I missed for that?
Yeah, I just want to jump in and say, leading up to the full day experience, we have sort of orientation to
Right.
help sort of infuse those life skills. So we're working with the youth on simple things like just how to introduce yourself to either a higher up at the university or a peer or a professor. We try to focus the skills around some of the social skills that they may not feel super confident about. Research shows that most incarcerated youth have never even set foot on a college campus before, despite maybe growing up close to one. So that exposure to college is sort of a larger goal to help them envision a possible future for themselves in higher education. So we're really trying to not just make this an isolated day experience, but more of a I can see myself belonging to an institution in some way. So we're trying to equip them with all of the knowledge on the front end. What's a college major? What's a fraternity and sorority? How do you balance partying and classes? Really getting into the nitty gritty of sort of all the things that come with college life.
And that's something that they really enjoy, right? I mean, they don't get that much outside interaction at all, really. So, one of their favorite parts of the day is, when we're in class or when we're walking around and they get to interact with other college students. That's something that they all really, really enjoy. And then getting into basketball. So when Dr. Jacobs and Dr. Wall Alexander were interviewing me, they were like, "So what are you gonna do? Like, what are you gonna bring to the table?" Right? Because they didn't really know how I was gonna fit in. Right? I'm a white male. I don't have that much to offer other than my experience with coaching. Right? So I said that I wanted to do two things. I wanted to start a podcast and I wanted to start a basketball team. And we've been trying since the fall with the basketball team. And, finally, recently, we've made some good headway. The ultimate goal is to shoot for the moon, right? I mean, they're high school age students. There's no reason why the IHSA shouldn't recognize them. So, we have a lot of work to do, but I think that, we have a lot of potential with, the team that we have right now, as far as graduate students built by Dr. Jacobs and Dr. Wall, and, really just focusing on the life skills associated with sport, right? So, the competition aspect, how are you going to learn how to lose? Because quite frankly, you're not always going to win. And I think that, those types of lessons are crucial in the development of anybody. And, sport has the power to do great things. And that's one of Dr. Jacobs' favorite quotes. It's one of my favorite quotes. And Nelson Mandela was right. I mean, it's one of those things where you get to give somebody a different perspective of thinking, and they get to do the same thing in return to you. So just by teaching them some of the skills that I've learned through playing basketball, through playing lacrosse, through just other life experiences, they can use those things. And we have a great system in place as far as the life skills that we talk about. Javon mentioned loyalty. I'll use the example of communication, right? Communication is crucial in sports, especially a sport like basketball, where you need to know where your teammates are on the court around you. And that translates later into life. I mean, these kids are predominantly black males, and they're getting exposed to talking to people that they probably wouldn't communicate with otherwise, and myself. And gaining those perspectives mixed with the life skills has been something that's been really cool to see them kind of grow as people, and also just as they get more comfortable, right, their personalities start to show. And I think that that's what's been really cool to see. So with the basketball program, getting them the chance to travel, off site, come to NIU to play games, give them the chance to get all those new experiences and really treat it like it's a legitimate, program, right? I was a practice player, and when I went to community college, and all the drills that we run for the most part are drills that I did when I was on a basketball team. and we try to make it as real as we can for them, down to 10 minutes of practice. We know what we're doing. So it's been a really cool experience, and Javon has played a great role in making sure that everything is running smoothly alongside. So it's been great.
Awesome. So before we throw it to the audience for question and answers, I hope you're thinking of things that you might want to ask these students. I wanted to end with just a question for both Javon and Tim. I want to paint the picture a bit of just how much effort goes into their preparation to enter a facility like this. There is no day that looks clean, right? The plan never goes according to plan, ever, ever, ever. No matter how much preparation, how much they've been trained, how much they've dove into the research or thought through X, Y, and Z can happen. It's always something else. But there are really small glimpses of success and the impacts that they're making on these youth. So I'm wondering if each of them could share one of their favorite success stories, number one, and then number two, what is something you've learned about yourself being in Project Flex? While they're both teachers, instructors in the program, they say that a good teacher should also be a student. So I'm sure you all have learned something. So what's a success story you could tell? And then what is something that you've learned about yourself running a program inside a youth facility? I'll let you argue over who goes first.
I'm going to let Javon go first.
All right, well, I love this story. It's actually one I don't think I've really ever told before. It was kind of a between me and me thing. But I will say, so last semester, there was a point where we were playing basketball. No, not last semester. Last spring, so a year from now. There was a time where we were all playing basketball. And there was a kid that was, every time he would play basketball against the other kids and he would lose a game, there would always be a reason as to why he lost the game, or he would always have an excuse. There would always be like, oh, my ankle was hurting today, or I forgot my pants in the cottage and I wasn't able to, get any movement out of my legs or anything like that. So there was always a quote that I learned when I was younger, and it's the excuses quote, which is excuses are tools of incompetence used to build bridges to nowhere and monuments of nothingness, and those who use them seldom amount to anything. And so what I would always do is every day I would say a piece of that quote to that particular kid. And I never got him to memorize it, but it was always a point where when I would say the quote, he would say the parts that he knew about it. And so over time, when we would play basketball and there'd be a time he missed a shot or something and he would get ready to say something, I would look at him and he would look at me and then he wouldn't say anything. And he would say, all right, I missed that shot. I didn't make that shot. That was my bad, and everything like that. So that was something that was big for me because growing up, I used to make a lot of excuses. I used to always try to say why I wasn't able to do something or why I was having setbacks. And knowing how much that quote, it has changed my life and how much I live by that, I can only imagine what it's doing for that person today. They have been released. So I am hoping that they don't forget at least that quote or the pieces that they remembered. And hopefully at some point in time, they will look that up and be able to live by that as well. So that's probably been my biggest success story. But what I've learned about myself in the facility, I learned I'm very versatile. I don't want to come off bragging about it, but I will say I have a lot of different roles that I have with the kids. More so I can be a big brother. I prefer to play the good cop role in a situation. But at the same time, I've had my moments where I've had to put my foot down, even though it's out of my comfort zone. That was the biggest thing for me. But I will say I did learn that my biggest asset is my versatility, being able to do so many different things at one time. I think the kids do learn from that, and they do see me just as Javon, the person who goes to school, but I'm also a friend, a big brother, but also a mentor. So that is something that I learned about myself.
Yeah, something that Javon touched on was that level of consistency. And I think that that's crucial in kind of any relationship you have with somebody, but especially the work that we do with the youth that are in this facility. A lot of the other volunteers, quite frankly, they don't see them that often. And, they might spend some time in a facility and then, decide it's maybe not for them. So we see them really often, and I think that that's kind of the thing that I've learned the most is how important consistency really is with, building relationships and maintaining them across the board. Uh, I think that we all do a really good job of being the same person day in and day out. And I think that I've noticed, at least myself, that I've continued to kind of be more consistent outside of the facility. So, I'm not putting on a face when I go in versus when I'm out. I'm always Tim. I'm going to ask you how your day is going, and I'm going to be the person that walks up to you and says hi first. And, I think that catches some of the kids off guard, but after a few days of knowing me, they start to realize, okay, this is just who he is. So I think consistency is a thing that I've learned most, that matters a lot. A success, one happened really recently within the last month. There was a fight. Something happened right before we were about to start practice. And, leading up to the season, we had the kids sign player contracts, right? So we're trying to make it as legitimate of a program we can. So we had them sign contracts almost like it's a national letter of intent for student athletes. And, with that, when fights happen, all that stuff kind of goes out the window, right? That's kind of just the culture of being inside the facility. That said, there were a few guys on the team that did get into it, but there were also kids on the team that did not. And the fact that they didn't might not seem like that big of a deal, but quite frankly, I was floored that they didn't get involved, because when things like that happen, it's kind of like an expectation, an unspoken rule. If you have any kind of affiliation, like, you're stepping in also. So that was a really big step in the right direction.
Awesome. Thank you guys for sharing those heartfelt stories. So we wanted to leave time for any questions from audience members. So Alicia, maybe we could bring it back to you and you could facilitate.
Yeah, I'll kick it off. I've just had a couple of questions. So Tim, you mentioned that one of your goals, if I caught it, was to create a podcast. So were you able to do that, and what happened with that project?
Yeah, we have something in the works. But that's all I'm allowed to say at this time.
You can give a little bit more. I see two of our guests on our podcast are actually on this call. So Caitlin and Tim are both there. The students have been recording. NIU was gracious to give us some grant funding to get like the fancy equipment. So the goal is to launch the episodes coming in the fall. So if people are interested, I can put our Instagram handle in the chat box, and that's where we'll be announcing how you can access these podcasts and listen to them and all of that.
Great. And I was going to I'll send out an email after with a recording of today's presentation and any links. So for any of you presenters that want to send me anything, I'll make sure it goes out in that email as well. And the other question I had, and this is probably for all of you, is how can people help? So what do you need to continue the project, expand the project? How can people get involved?
That is a great question. There's a lot that we need. Most especially, we need students to be involved as graduate leaders. As our program continues to grow, we need more staff. That's probably our most pressing need right now. And we're really fortunate in that the students that we hire to be a part of this program can receive a tuition remission, so they can go to grad school for free, as well as they're getting a stipend for this. So that's obviously a huge ask. I don't know that anyone on this call suddenly wants to do their master's degree and work in a prison, but if you do, or you know of people that do, that's a huge pressing need. Other things that we need, we're trying to grow our sort of social media following, because we believe that being able to get more exposure and sort of transparency in the public sector will help sort of increase the value and legitimacy of our program, I think. So, following us on social media, interacting with us, and then oftentimes we'll have put calls out to, looking for partnering organizations that do this or that. And so helping us sort of connect with other organizations doing similar things would be something very valuable. And then if you're here on campus too, we do these periodic field trips as Tim talked about. So if your organization, or even if you're a student and you would want to get involved with helping out on one of those days, our goal there is to show what NIU as a campus is like. And so probably if you're a Husky, you can contribute in some way to that as well.
That's great. I know you guys participated in the past in crowdfunding campaigns and some fundraising campaigns. Are there plans to do that in the future?
We have left our crowdfunding campaign open. It was so successful. So you can at any time donate to Project Flex, and that's also on our Instagram and website. And so we can circulate those materials around. And that money goes to support all things for the youth. So there's sporting equipment that we need, or some of the costs associated with bringing them on campus and doing some of the activities we want to do. It becomes a bit trickier. Like we have goals to get them like all Project Flex shirts and stuff, but there's a lot of sort of safety regulations with being able to give youth things while they're incarcerated, but we give them journals. And so all of that money gets sort of filtered back into enriching the experience for the kids.
I know you mentioned early in the presentation how many youth centers there are in Illinois, and Project Flex isn't all of them yet.
Right.
Does something like this exist in other states, or is this unique to your partnership here in Illinois?
That is a great question. And if I could tap Kaylin in on it, but I'm not going to put her on the spot. But so Kaylin McDonald does research on sport in prisons internationally. So she looks at what programs are doing or what facilities are doing across the country, but even across the world. And I might be inaccurate saying this, but I'm pretty sure she's mentioned to us that nobody's doing what we're doing in terms of the integrating life skills. Kaylin, I'll let you say something for a second if you would like.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, to my knowledge, Project Flex is the only one that is really doing it to this scale from what I have seen, especially across the US. And so they're really leading the way and just a tremendous example for so many of us. And not only an example, but really inspirational as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know we had a couple questions in the chat. What's the follow-up plan after the youth transition out of the detention centers? Are you still engaged, or what does that engagement look like?
That's a really good question. And unfortunately, that's probably the biggest challenge for us. There's not a clear mode of structural support for us to be in contact with the youth after they leave the facility. It's supposed to protect the youth and to protect the volunteers. There's not open modes of communication. We're pretty transparent. I mean, the youth know our names and know that we're professors and students at NIU. So students or former Flex individuals have reached out, and we've actually had some cool success stories. One individual who used to be a part of Project Flex attended NIU for a short time. We've had other students reach out about applying. One of our favorite success stories is an individual now runs like a sports mentoring program in his own community and keeps in contact with us and asks for like resources and tips, like, hey, that thing we used to do at Flex, like I want to do that with my kids. But we don't have an established program that we can continue to support them. That's something that we're hoping to grow in the future. And a specific goal we have is to possibly get them like certified in some way, either as a coach or a personal trainer or something, to where we can set them up for a career opportunity after they leave.
Well, and kind of related to that, how does your program work with nonprofit organizations that are based in the communities where these kids might be going back to? And I know it's not directly, you wouldn't be working directly necessarily, because of privacy things, but how are you connected to nonprofit organizations that are kind of in this space?
We are minimally connected to nonprofit organizations, and something we're hoping to try to expand to. Sort of hot off the press is some potential for us to explore being more available on the political front. There's been some encouraging from some of our university supervisors to start an advocacy campaign, potentially with the governor's office and or the Black Caucus, and see if there's a little bit more like resource sharing and momentum we can get through there to help connect us with other parallel organizations and or just help sort of increase the opportunity for a public service to publish research that helps, you know, policymakers understand, here's what we should be doing, here's what works well, here's what doesn't work well, here's how we can reduce recidivism rates, things like that.
Yeah, that advocacy role is really interesting for some of this work. And I know here in DeKalb County, we have a juvenile justice committee, and that's a group of public as well as nonprofit sector folks. So there's some pieces out there, but yeah, if anything, if we can make any connections with our center and your work, we'd be happy to try to do that, especially around the funding piece, but happy to do that. So other questions or thoughts? If anybody wants to ask anything, you can unmute or you can put something in the chat. I know we're getting close to time, and if you are able to eat your lunch, you're good, but you might want to run out and get lunch, so we don't want to keep people longer than necessary.
I raised my hand. I don't know if anyone else had their hand raised before me, but
oh, yeah, I see two. Go ahead, Lucretia. I'll ask Garrett right after.
Okay. Hey, everyone. I'm Lucretia Birds. I work for the Community Renewal Society, which is a faith-based social justice organization, and I'm a policy and organizing associate there. Before coming to CRS, I've done a lot of work with youth and even work around the juvenile justice system. I'm currently sitting at a table that I think you all should know about. It is called the Illinois Blueprint for Peace. I'll try to find a link and put it in the chat, but it is a coalition of folks who are very invested in looking at how our state responds to violence, and not just violence during an incident, but even after, right? Like, how are we dealing with, incarceration at all levels, like youth and even adults? And I think that it's very important for you all in some way to consider being at that table, because they are making policy recommendations. And there's a lot of things going on at that table. But yeah, I suggest that. Also, I know a person who is working directly with youth in his community on the South Side, and teaches martial arts, and it's kind of similar in a way, like finding some sort of physical activity, right, to connect with youth through and building up character and skills. And I think that it would be nice to facilitate some sort of conversation between you and him. I don't know if this video will be public. It might.
Yeah, it'll be public. It's on our YouTube channel. So when I send it to you guys, feel free to distribute.
Okay, so I will do that. I will distribute that video, and hopefully if y'all can send me a contact, I would like to make a connection.
That's so awesome. Let's definitely connect offline. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucretia. Garrett, and then Tim. So Garrett.
Yeah, this is for Tim and Javon more. So how do you guys find best to, I'm also a grad student here at NIU. What's the balance like? How do you find the balance between getting your schoolwork done and also being so involved in the prisons, and kind of the challenges that come with that, and kind of some success strategies you use?
I want to hear yours first. I'll leave.
Sorry, Javon, you kind of cut out for a second there. But what were you saying?
So you go ahead first. I want to hear yours first. I'll follow you.
Okay. Yeah. So it's a lot. I'm not gonna lie. But it's a really, really cool experience. That, like we talked about a few minutes ago, it's really hard to find, and it's gonna be hard to get anywhere else. So you kind of think about that, and you realize that you are here to go to school, but you're also here to be a graduate assistant. And finding that balance, I think that it's a lot of trial and error, right? I think that you find out pretty early on what will work and what won't work. It helps that we're scheduled to go to facilities in the middle of the day, right? So Javon and I are actually going to be heading out to a facility right after this. So You know, being able to take classes at night, being a grad student, it makes it a little bit easier. And also just the people on this team. I mean, our personalities mold so well together that, you know, I say this a lot in our meetings. This really is like the dream team. You know, it's so many different perspectives from different walks of life, and I think that that's what makes it so effective.
I would say for me, it's about the same thing as Tim. It's definitely a lot, man. I've been trying to, like, last semester, I would say, you know, applying to PhD programs and then trying to juggle flex and then being a graduate student. And that was probably the roughest semester or any like months of my life, honestly. At that point in time, like being fully transparent, like I had lost a lot of like my mental health was just going all over the place. I wasn't taking care of myself in terms of exercise and everything. Didn't really have time for much. But like Tim said here, when you have a great team, a lot of people are able to kind of help pick up the slack when you're like kind of leaving off a little bit. But at the same time, they are going to give you constructive criticism about what you need to do, still keep you on your toes. So I would say without them, man, I think I would have definitely, like, I would have been okay, but at the same time, I would have had a bigger struggle in terms of pulling myself together. But it's just really just about time management. I think that's all I've learned through here is just time management. Like, honestly saying, I could go to hang out with my friends here, but then if I do that, what am I going to have to sacrifice in the long run? And just having to be an adult about it. You know, there's a lot of times I made sacrifices for things that, you know, I didn't really want to do, but I had to do it. And, you know, just having a team, like I said earlier, it's just, it's helped me a lot. So they've kept me grounded, and I'm forever grateful for the treatment.
I also think that it's important to note that Dr. Jacobs and Dr. Wall, their leadership is crucial. I mean, this is them and Lloyd. They're who make this run. So, you know, as far as, you know, any expectations with research that we might have, you know, if we don't want to get involved with research to a certain extent, we might not have to, but they also allow us to grow. And, you know, ego is not a problem, and I think that that's something that you don't find in a lot of other areas, where, you know, you have a program like this. And I think that you know, their leadership and, you know, their ability to mentor us all with, you know, all of our different personalities, I think that that's really, really important to note as well.
That's great, Javon. Timothy, thank you for being so honest and sharing those. We have another question from Tim Mack. Go ahead, Tim.
What's up, guys? So my question is, Javon, you leading into, you know, doctorates at Old Dominion. Props to you, by the way. Congrats again. What lessons will you bring from Flex? And then Tim, question is, going into year 2 of Flex, what does the big boy pants bring of year 2?
If I got your question right, it's what am I going to bring from Flex to where I go next?
Yeah.
I would say honestly, being in Flex, when you're working with incarcerated youth, it's probably the setting where they're going to be the most straight up with you about anything that's going on. So I feel like I've been in the toughest environment that there is. So I know when I beat other people, I have a different perspective as to how to address people, how to just be like straightforward and honest. I think that's something big that I've learned from them. I'll even say what's prompted me to even lose like weight and go into the gym is before the day before one kid got released, he told me, hey man, Javon, I think you getting kind of fat, man. Like you know, when we were playing basketball, there's a lot of things that I think you could have did better, but you weren't in shape. You couldn't keep up with us, man. You know, you were tired running down the court 5 and 6 times, and it's, you know, I'm embarrassed for you. Like he told me that. But it was like one of those things, like it was out of love, man. It wasn't like you were trying to tear me down. But if I never heard somebody say something that straightforward, you know, I may have taken a little bit longer to go work out and took it as, you know, taking it as seriously. So I would say that's probably the biggest thing, just being straightforward, standing up for what you believe in, and being, you know, just bold in your responses. And you have to care about people's feelings as well. But at the same time, man, you know, we're at the age where you have to be an adult. You have to, if something you don't agree with something, you know, you need to speak up and say it. Don't just, you know, have your mouth closed and then behind closed doors tell other people what you have a problem with instead of addressing that person head on. So that's the biggest thing that I've learned from him, man. And I'm excited to take that to where I go to see how it works for me. So I'll answer that pretty well.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to be the same without Javon. It's not been the same without you either, Tim. But I think that the thing that I'm going to bring with me for next year is to really make that much more of an effort to make those little connections, right? You know, you can, as much as I can connect on sports and stuff like that, it's finding those other little things, right? It's always the little things. Finding the other personality traits that, you know, I have and figuring out how to implement that into sessions to help run things smoother. You know, something that is really important to me is, you know, always being better than you were the day before. And so, you know, next year I really want to think about how the consistency that I bring to the table can impact other situations. So I don't know if that really answered your question, but that's the best answer I could give, is try to make more of an impact than I'm making right now, and just keep doing what we're doing, because I think that we have a lot of potential to do great things.
That works perfect for me. Can I just sneak in one last question for Dr. J?
Mm-hmm. Sure, Timmy.
So you're the founder, the mother of all to this like programs. What is the greatest thing about starting this program from the beginning until now? Like, what's your proudest moment or thing about it?
If I would have had the answer when I originally started the program, I thought it would be something to do with the youth in the facility, which amazing things have happened there, but it's all about the graduate students. To see their growth, they fuel this program so much. To watch them transition over just their 2 short years is amazing. So it's all about them for me, their development and almost kind of creating this flex family, which I know we use that term a lot. So it's all about you guys, I would say.
Well, and on that note, I really want to thank all of you, particularly the students, for taking the time to prepare for this presentation, for deliver this presentation with such grace, such professionalism. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about the project as it continues. And good luck, Javon, in your PhD programs. You're always going to be a Husky, so I'm sure you'll be back and around as we go forward. I want to definitely give you everybody a virtual congratulations for joining us today. Thank you all. We'll send out an email for everybody who registered. Make sure we put all those links in so you can keep up with Project Flex, and send the recording out to anyone who would be interested. Thank you all so much for coming. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.